Why should small businesses invest in strategy? Dealing with a strategist is like going to the hairdresser. Like, you want to know what you're going to get. And it's always unsettling for somebody to try working with a new strategist for the first time.
Let's meet Kirsten Van Rooyen, a marketing strategist whose career bridges creativity, performance, and leadership at a global scale. Her path didn't begin in business school or traditional marketing. It began in the world of music and storytelling, where understanding emotion, audience, and meaning is everything.
We're asking customers to do really brave things with us.
Today, as a director of marketing strategy at Superside, she leads multidisciplinary teams, shapes high-impact strategic work for global clients, and helps organizations navigate transformation in an era defined by AI, rapid change, and rising creative expectations.
I think my first advice will actually be step away from the AI. You were able to sell all the vehicles. We actually hit the stock limits and nobody had even test drove it, just through like really clever marketing. All of them were sold, truly rolled off the ship into new owners' hands. That's when it fails to perform, because there's something in the human brain that doesn't like connect with that piece. Things were going very badly on X, and when it was still Twitter, they didn't do that. And as a result, they were one of the only brands that when you're doing research, my biggest advice is...
So, Kristen, how are you? How are you doing?
Hey, Emmanuel, I'm excellent. Thanks. How are you doing?
Very good. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, so happy to be here. Glad we could finally make it happen.
Yeah, totally. Let me start with a question. What does a director of marketing strategy does?
That's an excellent question. I guess my job mostly at the moment is managing people and the service development. So making sure that the service grows within Superside, making sure we uphold the highest quality standard of service to the customers, growing our AI engagement, and of course, managing a team of very wonderful, very talented human beings who do the strategy work. And if I could give you my job in like one line, I think my job is to really push the team's thinking, to make them think differently about things, and to therefore take that different thinking to the work that we do for customers.
What would you say that is when your team, you feel that they are not pushing themselves enough? What would be those cases?
I think if you're looking at a piece of strategy work and it feels generic, so you can replace the brand name with, I don't know, a hand soap brand, and the strategy would still feel true. That's not a strategy that's pushed itself hard enough. I think every strategy we do for customers and the expectation from the team needs to feel really tailored to the customer we're working with, the audiences we're trying to reach, and the product we're trying to ultimately sell. So, yeah, I always push them to take it a little bit further and push them to think a little bit differently. Like, we've done all of the standard stuff before. Like, what if we tried something different here? And sometimes customers don't like the something different, but if we didn't say it, we would never get the opportunity for when they do say, yes, let's do the different thing.
Okay, that's amazing. So I would like to understand, your team are marketers, correct?
Yes, they're actually strategists
Uh-huh.
that are specialized in various sections of marketing.
Uh-huh.
So on our team, we have everything and anything you could imagine. We have people who are specialists in brand strategy, CRM strategy, SEO, content, channel, video, immersive, experiential. So really experienced across a range of developing strategy work. And they've worked in marketing environments or with marketers for a really long time. So they understand the pain points that marketers have, and that we're trying to solve when they come to us looking for a solution.
When you have to structure, like, so a client comes with a request, how do you
Mhm.
structure the workflow to involve the different parts?
So the customer, we try to keep continuity of customer engagement. So the first person who will touch a project is the person who has worked with that customer before. Because it's like, I'm going to put it in a very bad way, but dealing with a strategist is like going to the hairdresser. Like, you want to know what you're going to get. And it's always unsettling for somebody to try working with a new strategist for the first time. So what we do, like getting your hair cut from someone new for the first time.
Interesting.
So what we try to do is keep continuity in human being. So say it's me as an example. I've worked with a customer before. I will meet with the customer and they will say, we're really interested in building something in, I don't know, CRM strategy. And that's maybe not an area of strategy I feel super confident in. So what we would do internally is then go to the person who's an expert in that within the team, and I will partner with them to work on it. So I get to learn about CRM strategy. They get to learn more about the customer that I've been so involved with. And that way we keep strategic integrity. We're delivering high quality work with experts, but we're also keeping the brand in mind, because in strategy conversations, you're getting lots of deep and detailed insights into the customer. It's really hard to translate that and just give that work to somebody else. So that's the first way, like how we staff. And then I guess part of your question was like workflow, how we would handle a project, like where do we start?
Uh-huh.
Cool. So the first place we always start is understanding the audience we're trying to connect with, because whether we're talking to C-levels or we're talking to the average Joe on the street, we're talking to human beings that have different needs, pain points, barriers to engaging with the customer's product. From there, we look at what the competitors are doing in the market to try and understand, is there an opportunity there for us to tap into it differently? Where are they winning? Where are they losing? Is there really something we could be doing to shake things up? And then we look at the customer's own work, and we look at the customer's own work last, because we almost need to get the full picture of everything outside before we look at their work. And then from there, we're able to gather the strategic insights and opportunities. And depending on what the output of the strategy is, we will then develop the strategic recommendations. So based on all of the research, insights, and data that we get in the research phase, we're able to then take the assumptions and learnings from that section into how we craft a really robust strategy to meet the customer's
Okay.
needs.
Let me interrupt you there. And I have a question about that.
Yes.
To me, it always has been some of the most difficult things to like made up in my mind how it's supposed to be done. It is, how do you do research with the little time that we all have, not having to go to the place that where the customer is working
Mm,
remotely? And I suppose it's easier now with the available tools of AI that we have.
mm.
But I would like to know from you, that I think is the best person that can answer for me. How would you recommend people to do research in this kind of tasks?
I think my first advice will actually be step away from the AI.
Okay.
First, look at the task at hand and decide what you need to find
Uh-huh.
in order for you to do the best job. So if it's you need to find why people are buying more pink products than blue products, as a very bad example, like you need to decide that as the person doing the research.
Yeah.
Then you turn to your research tools. And Perplexity is a great one. There's a multitude of products out there that people can use, and you need to be really specific
Hmm.
around what you're looking for. So you want to understand why this target group is behaving in this way, getting all of the data backed research, and then also expanding it a little bit into culture. So if you're speaking very specifically, um, if you're speaking to a very specific niche and culture, like get into the meat of that culture. Spend time looking at the TikTok hashtags, go onto YouTube, deep dive into what creators are saying about the products, like what people's perception is. Reddit is an excellent place to do research to get an idea of customer perception. And then from there, you start to draw out the insights and learnings. You'll start to see patterns beyond just the data that you'll get from the standard research platforms. And you can start to see where the opportunity space is. It sounds very complicated, and you're going to be like, how do you see it? It becomes really clear the more you get into it, like where the challenge is and where the opportunity is. It's just customers don't have the time to do it themselves.
When you say that you have to be very specific
Mm-hmm.
to, in the case of using doing research with AI, what kind of questions would you ask to be specific?
So if you're using an AI tool, you need to be very clear on what company, maybe not company, depending on the data you want to keep private, but at least industry that the customer is playing in. You need to be clear what target audience you're trying to reach or what competitor set you're trying to reach. Be clear with the AI around what you're trying to achieve by doing this research. So that's why you have to know what you're looking for first. And another great way to do it, if you don't have that information, is actually just ask the AI. Say, I need to do research on this thing. What information do you need from me to make this research robust and valuable? And the AI will tell you what it needs because it's just a master query coming back at you.
That's amazing. And how do you know what to trust about the results that AI is giving you?
We only use tools that can give us sources. So if there is no source that we can cross-reference it and also check that the AI is not hallucinating, then we don't use that as a source for the research. So again, Perplexity is really good, gives you the inline sources. You can click into it and see what is happening. Sometimes it does like not make up a stat or like some information, but it can sometimes misunderstand the information that it's giving you. But for the most part, as long as there is a reputable source behind it, it's easy enough to be able to verify the AI. 8 months ago, 10 months ago, not so easy. Now at least it's gotten a lot better.
That's super great and useful. I'm gonna start using a bit more of that for my projects because I have been a bit afraid of like um the lack of certainty when this information comes, and also especially with things like resource of or personas that how do I know that this avatar that this AI is building for me, it is actually how the person
Mm,
really behaves. And I'm a bit advocate of AI, but still I have this concern sometimes. So yeah, it helps that to know that it's something that you use in your
mm.
research.
I think also don't be afraid to question the AI and to ask it like why it's saying that, why it feels like that is the right thing. Often it will tell you, oh, it made it up, which is fine. Then at least you know. But there's often something deeper in there too, where it can be like, oh, I've actually found these sources that lead me to believe this thing to be true. So question it when you feel uncertain. But when you're doing research, my biggest advice is, particularly if you're working in a creative world, is look for data that makes you think differently about the problem that you have. That feels like a real aha, I didn't look at it that way. Or that's really interesting. Because anyone can Google information. It's not that difficult. But to really find the interesting data points that lead to great creativity, you have to dig really deep and look for the moments that maybe make you feel a little bit uncomfortable in what you're reading. Like those are the moments that often you will find the best insight, the best data to like start to produce a great creative platform.
Okay. So after the research and you get collect all your data, what would come after it is finding the insights, right?
Yeah, so once we've done the research, during the research, we're kind of collating the insights
Mhm.
together. So we know roughly the direction, and we will then reflect on all of that information, look at the challenge that we're trying to solve for the customer, and then start to build a strategy around the data. So the customer brief could be they wanted to spend a lot of money on Meta, but they're not seeing the click-through rates or the lead conversions that they were hoping for. Um, how should they pivot? And maybe we've got their data that we're able to look at. But in our research, we find that actually being on Meta is the wrong platform for them. They need to be on TikTok. As a very broad example, we'll start to build the recommendation around what the data tells us, and then what the logical flow is for the story to unfold. Because all you're doing is making a plan effectively, but you need to tell it in a story style. You need to tell it like it's a story. I learned these things.
You mean to the customer, you have to present it like in a story.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, you're saying I learned these things. And because of these things, I now know these are the things that we recommend you should be doing to achieve the thing that you came here for. And the strategy recommendation can look like a lot of things, lots of different versions of it. I'm sure you've seen many different versions of it from my team, depending on what we're trying to ask, but answer. But yeah, build the recommendations off the back of the data.
Then what happens next in the workflow?
Hopefully the customer approves it because we're so clever. But what would happen is we would then take that plan and build out like what are the next step actions, what are the short and long term things we need to do, how do we create assets, optimize landing pages, emailers, like whatever that is. And we basically then develop a production roadmap or a to-do list box between us and the customer on like this is what you need to do, this is what we need to do, and we need to work together in order for this to come together. And then we work with the creative team, taking all of the research we had, distilling it into what's really important for them to know, for them to go and then take that insight and turn it into creative work that's going to be impactful for what we're trying to achieve.
And then after that point, it's pretty much depending on the type of assets that you need to build. You involve CEO or copywriter or
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the impact that this kind of work have on small businesses that we've seen pretty often that people don't want to invest in a strategy because they may
Hmm.
that is expensive or it takes too much time for their the speed that they think they need?
Hmm.
What's the return of investment on strategy, and what are they missing? The people that is not, or do you have any stories or cases where people have decided not to invest on a
Hmm.
strategy and have had not good results, or what are the results usually?
Yeah. I think there are lots of questions in there. So I'll start with why should small businesses invest in strategy, and particularly an external strategy team, which is the kind of team I run? So you get access to very experienced talent that have seen these kind of problems before. You also get access to people who are removed from the day-to-day operations of your business. And why that's a benefit is they don't have the noise that you have around the business and what the business needs to achieve and everything that comes with that. They're really focused on solving whatever the problem is at hand. It's your job to give them that context, but only the relevant context as a small business. And yes, strategy can be expensive because we're spending a lot of time thinking really deeply about businesses and their problems and their industries, which can be very complex all at once. And we're tasked to find solutions to what often feels like impossible problems. Um, And there's been many cases when customers in my career have not done what we told them to. I can think of one example. It was in a previous life where we had recommended that at the time things were going very badly on X, and when it was still Twitter, that they rather turn off the communication and rather stop advertising on the platform until we get a better sense of what is happening there. And we know what the direction is. I mean, not really a huge strategy needs to go into that. It feels like the really logical thing you should be doing at a time where, your brand perception might be at risk. They didn't do that. And as a result, they were one of the only brands that were continuing to advertise on the platform in the midst of social uproar around the platform. And they then had a PR crisis on their hands. So, I mean, that is one case. And I can think of cases where it's gone really well. We've seen examples this week at Superside where the customer trusted us enough to try something bold, experiment in a place that they've never done before. And the creative work that's come off the back of the strategy is performing 3 times better than anything they'd ever produced before. And I actually had this conversation with my team this week that we're asking customers to do really brave things with us. So we need to be a little bit patient in maybe it's not so easy or fast for them to be brave with us too.
Okay, I understand that everyone could serve themselves from a good strategy,
Hmm.
but who is the more suited person in which person or company or in which state it is when they need the most the strategy?
When they need the strategy the most, I mean, all the time, of course. But I think if you're in a moment of pivot or change in a business, if you're launching new things, changing market direction, or you're at a stalemate with your performance, it's not growing, you can't understand why. It's a great time to bring in a strategy team to have a look at it again, the outside perspective, very experienced people who can deep dive and really understand what the opportunity is and where the challenges might be coming from to help you launch the next thing or upturn your performance, whatever the problem is at hand.
So moment of changes, like,
Yes.
and moments where you touch something and you can have a lot of your audience feeling a bit lost
Mm.
or like insecure about what the next step is going to be and if they're going to lose
Yeah.
the what they are getting for this brand. And would you say also that maybe when you're investing a lot of money on ads or investing a lot of resources on something and things keep going down, I believe it's
Yes.
not a good moment, even though you a change.
Yeah. If you're not seeing the return on investment you were hoping for, maybe a good time to get another set of eyes on it.
Do you have in mind, and maybe you don't, but
Mm.
do you have in mind like any super big return of investment that you have or your team have had or you in the past with where someone invested on a strategy and got double, triple, 4 times what they invest?
I mean, many, many times. I did a lot of work in my previous life in the quick service restaurant industry. So, the margins are much easier to get there. But I think if I think of a few stories again from my past life, I worked on a car brand and we were bringing a new car into the market. And in order to know the volume of vehicle stock we needed to bring into the market, we needed to get pre-sales going. And we
Mhm.
had a maximum number we could bring into the market because of, trade and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So we developed a strategy, we ran a campaign. Now, remember, nobody is test driving this vehicle. Like the vehicle is not physically present in the market.
Yeah, they just
We,
for its build.
yeah,
Yeah.
we we sold 4,500 units of the vehicle before it even landed. We actually hit the stock limits and nobody had even test drove it just through like really clever marketing. Um, Meeting the audience where they are, getting them excited about it, showcasing others' experience around it. we were able to sell all the vehicles before they landed.
Oh my
All
God.
of them, all of them were sold. They
Like,
literally rolled off the ship into new owners' hands.
that's so great. That's such a
Yeah.
power. I believe it's so misutilized sometimes, but and I think this is a super good example of what you can do with a good strategist and a good team.
Yeah. Just, think differently.
I think that's a pretty clear example that I suppose that the math is easy as long as you don't spend much than the that what the selling a car versus producing it, the
Mm.
difference or the plus, if you invest less than what is gonna give you back, is a good business. When you're speaking about, for example, a brand that is not, we are not focused on selling products by
Mm.
itself. You're selling a service or something that is a bit less tangible. How do
Hmm.
you calculate the return of investment? What are the metrics that, and how is the process for you to set those metrics and convince the customer after that that's the result that you're having is because of the work of a strategy?
Yeah. I think it takes a lot more upfront time to and working with the customer on what that looks like, because there's a difference between the cost of acquiring a new customer
Mhm.
and the total lifetime value of that customer when they're bought into your product. What we often see is the customers that are the most expensive to bring into your ecosystem and to buy into your business are also the customers that are going to spend more lifetime value with you. They'll upgrade, they'll continue purchasing, they'll, be really interested in the product and invested in it. So we need to have those discussions around, like, are we measuring for short-term value? We can boost our user numbers really easily. Like, that's not going to be a hard thing. But in 2 months' time, we're going to have a problem where we have a huge number of new users who aren't using our platform, service, whatever that is. We need to create value through the entire ecosystem. And it's not just getting a new user in, it's once they're in, how do they engage? What are they doing? How do we keep them coming back? All of those emailers you get from, Netflix or something, someone is sitting there and like plotting out what your user journey will be to keep you maximally engaged with the product. Because the longer you're engaged with the product, the more your lifetime value is to the brand. So I don't know if I answered your question,
Yes, you do.
but
And also, it makes me realize it is not just like addressed to what content are you going to
yeah.
create or what the brand should go. You're also thinking like you get into the business and you get into the economics. Suppose you at some point you may speak with the CFO or
Mm,
the marketing. Yeah, that's something that you can imagine. But the CFO person who is there with the customer is they touches so many branches of the business.
yes. And the most successful campaigns I've probably ever run in my career are the ones where you are having conversations with people outside of marketing, where you're talking to, the after sales managers, where you're the growth teams, the finance teams, to understand, like, what things do we need to pull together to make this thing really work for your business. And that's when it works the best, because then everyone is on the same page. Everyone understands, what we're all driving towards, and that cross departmental collaboration is just so important for making sure that things run successfully.
And now you have like spark a lot of my curiosity. Yeah, more because I was already curious, but hearing these kind of things are, I think it's super useful to know and to learn about them. You
Mhm.
started as a social media manager. What do you study or how do you form yourself to do this kind of job that is so global vision of a business?
Yeah. I have a rather odd story, I think, on
Oh,
how I got here. So I actually have a honors degree in music composition.
okay.
And I worked at a record company as one of my first jobs. because I really wanted to be making music in the studio. And as part of me working there, it was really like an internship. I did get paid, so I suppose I was working there. Was to work with, back in the day, I'm showing my age, dropping off like CDs to radio stations of like, here's the new releases this week from our artists, like getting them to play it, tracking all of that. And at all the time that was happening, I wasn't getting the time in the studios that I thought I would. But there was this new like way of advertising that started to become popular, which was Facebook ads.
Okay. Yeah.
So at that time, I thought it was interesting. I was running all of the social media pages for all of the artists and the company, and I was playing with it. And I thought to myself, wow, this is something really interesting. I enjoy it. It's so creative, it's connecting with people. I'd be really keen to learn more. So I took the next step in my career. I went to a big digital company in South Africa. And at the time, Google were doing free courses on how to run Google Ads. Also, Google Ads is brand new to the market. And I did like 6-week boot camps with Google. I was very lucky that the company allowed me to do it, and they were completely free, which was amazing. I learned how to run Google Ads. I then started to develop more like social plans, like where are we running ads? What are we doing with this? And kind of just through experience, I fell into the role of strategy, and I've had amazing opportunities to work with some incredible brands, incredible strategists, incredible creative people. Um, Along the way, it's, picking it up, learning it as you go and figuring it out. I think we live in a world where things change so quickly, that I was very lucky that I got in very early into the industry, and I was really open to learning on it. But things are changing so quickly. It's hard to keep up now, but you have to be open to learning. Yeah. So a quick summary of where I came from and how I landed here is I just had really good opportunities, and I was really, really curious and driven to develop strategy work. It's became like something I really love to do.
I have a question between you learn Google Ads and you became a strategist. I think there is a gap there that understand.
Fair, fair. I did feel like I was telling you my whole life story, so I jumped. Yeah, so I learned Google Ads. I then started to do more of running ad campaigns for the customers we were working on. I then ventured for the first time into the agency world, and I worked at a very small boutique agency where I was running everything from their social strategy to coordinating the creatives to running the paid ads to their emailer campaigns. Like I did everything.
But
And
so these are things that because of you enter in this boutique, do you get the skill, for example, for writing and sending these emails? You just like self-learn it and start doing it because the work's needed in that company.
yeah,
Yeah.
someone needed to do it, and I was the person to get it done. So I just did, I guess.
You can, sorry, you can say that then you took one leap and you were not maybe fully prepared. You have to jump there and
Yeah,
we're saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to say no. I'm going to take the risk and learn across the way.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, taking the risk and learning along the way got me my next role at a performance driven agency. Um, and I worked mostly in new business development. But a big part of our role was like strategy with the customer, understanding what we're going to do, where we're going to place the media, what creative we need, how is that going to work with the media that we're placing. Yes.
Sorry. I have a question about that. When you say new business development, can you elaborate on that? Who's coming what in stage this person is coming or this group of people is coming. uh do they have like their own funding? They were like funded by someone else? What are they do they expect you to do?
So it was in the very early days of agencies running digital advertising
Uh-huh.
and particularly performance media.
Uh-huh.
So there were very few companies that offered that as a service. And my job was actually pretty easy when I think about it. The phone would ring or you would get an email, and there was some very big brand that me in my mid-20s could never have imagined working on, was asking for help to run performance media. So my job was to go meet with them in person. I didn't work remotely then. Sit down and understand what their challenges were, what they wanted to achieve, and then come back and work with the team of experts we had in all of the media fields to propose the best solution to the customer. And my job was to take all of the recommendations from the experts and put it together in a way that told the story back to the customer of like, this is why you should be doing these things because of this is what we found. So kind of like my first foray into strategy work. Yeah.
Okay.
And does that explain it more?
Yeah, that's explain it.
Good.
But
Oh,
then
you
I would like
froze.
to understand these people that come to see you, what in which stage they were. Like they just had money and they wanted to build a business and they wanted your recommendation on how to target it and how to make it successful.
So it was not small businesses, it was big businesses. We're talking banks. Um, what else did it? Car brands. I worked on lots of car brands. Insurance, like businesses with lots of money. It's very rare that we would get a small business. And if it was a small business, it normally had very big funding coming from a big business behind it.
So it was not like it was they were not going to create something entirely new. They were more like launching a service or a product within the business.
No, they had the services and products. They had been running television ads, buying newspaper ads for years and years and years. And the new way to connect with the audience was to be on digital platforms.
Ah, okay.
And that's
Is you
what we
they
did.
were trying to bring new people, new consumers. Okay,
Yes.
understand.
Yeah.
And do you, do you receive some sort of like uh, education or like a mentorship to do this kind of uh, work? And what do you recommend to people that they should incorporate in their skill set to do that kind of?
So I had really great experts that worked around me.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think at that point and at every point in my career, I've just been a very curious person. I want to know more. I want to understand. I want to, so to speak, like look under the hood. I want to see how the thing operates
Yeah.
to understand. I mean, I'm even like that in my personal life. Like I have to know all of the details to like get it. Um, and I think the skills that people need to have is to be very curious and to be open to learning new things and unafraid to ask questions that might make you sound stupid. There's no such thing as stupid questions. Um, but keep asking the questions until the things make sense for you. That's how I learned to do strategy in the early days. I moved on to many, many other agencies after that. I worked on some really incredible, huge brands. I've worked on some very small brands in very niche markets. Um, and it's been really exciting. And I think it comes down to I was curious and I just wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about how things work, how to make it work, and to tie it back into what I studied, because now it feels very unrelated. Um, Ultimately, music is telling stories to people. And that's really what my job is, to make sure that we're putting the right stories in the right places for our customers,
That's how you would summarize like what you do is telling stories to.
to the
Okay.
right people in the right places. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so nice because I think that there is so many professions that the core have that. It just
Mm.
you execute it in a different way.
Yeah.
But so it seems like there is like I don't know, I couldn't say everything, but there is a lot of things that ended up going into storytelling as the success
Yes.
of that role or career. That's amazing. That's something to reflect on for me. At least I find it super interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I would like to ask you, um, when someone comes to you for getting this service of the strategy, but they're not that convinced,
Mm.
um, because they have constraints or they have manpower constraint or a budget constraint. What are your arguments to make this person trust you? To besides the results, let's say you don't have as results as you have had, because I suppose it's here like that. But what would be your arguments to convince that person or to let them know?
I think first and foremost, people have a misconception that strategy has to be a big, complicated, long presentation.
Okay.
Sometimes strategy can just be a really thoughtful conversation with an expert and someone who pushes your thinking. So I think that's the first thing I always say. You'll see it in the way we work together. Whenever something starts, I say, let's get on a call. Let's get on a call and understand what's happening, because we can often solve something in a call. We build trust in the call. And maybe we solve a couple of things and that's enough for the customer, and they don't need to then invest or do whatever they need to do. And that's okay. Of course, we want them to, have strategy work, but ultimately we're just advising based on our expertise. And it doesn't have to be expensive and complicated. It can just be a conversation. And that's how I like to position it. Like, you don't have to get the Ferrari version. Like, maybe it's just the TikTok Ferrari, and that's okay.
Okay. But you make it seem less threatening or less like big
Hmm.
deal, and just like let's start with something small and see how it goes. And that's amazing. I'm super happy with the conversation that we're having.
Uh,
I want people, first people like me that are
hmm.
creatives, that you don't always have the vision, the global vision of what everyone else around you do. But I also want to that business owners and people that are wanting to build something to understand the value of what all of us in the creative
Yeah.
industry do and how they can leverage AI in that as well. So the level of detail that you're telling me things is super good.
Okay, good. Because the feedback I got from the last podcast I did is that I talk too much. So, so I'm glad I'm being detailed here, and that's good.
I think you're talking like the I don't know, the great amount for me.
Okay.
I'm listening a lot more than what I usually speak, because I'm processing a lot of things that you're telling me, but the level of detail is really good to understand.
Good. I'm glad.
Okay. You're mentioning to me how do you address calls or like conversations with a customer to let them know what to expect and not to be super like apprehensive or concerned about how big and complicated it can be. And what would be those most common mistakes than your someone that enters in your team or that have very little experience starting doing a strategy do that you feel that you have to correct or like guide them through?
I think people are often apprehensive to have just a conversation about it. A lot of the conversations we have with customers requires you to think on the spot and start to form some kind of solution or give them guidance to what you think the strategy outcome will be. And I would say 80% of the time I'm wrong in that conversation. But the fact that I stand there with confidence and say, I think this could be happening, and I haven't done this, you need to be confident in it, and also be open. Like, I will always say, I haven't done the research and I'm not sure, but I think this is where it could go. And that is enough to build trust with the customer. So it's not something I would correct. It would be something I would encourage, is be confident, because you're on the call, because you're the experts. So behave as such. And it's okay to also not know everything.
Okay, so it's like feeling confident in your in the ambiguity, knowing that the certainty will come with the research, but you're certain that you will get to something good, which you just don't know what is that.
What that is yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think maybe this is advice for everyone. I really believe it's okay to be on a call and not have all the answers, and to say that.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
To say, I'm really not sure what the answer is here, but I'm going to dig into it and I will get back to you. And then do get back to them. That's very important. But not being afraid to say that you don't know something. It's okay. This world is huge. How would we ever be able to remember everything?
Okay, yeah, and that's something that I also have to learn uh, in this new role. I was saying in the previous podcast, I had to manage a team that it was remodeling an office with
Mm,
construction and an electrician and network engineer, and I was like, I don't know anything about this, but guys, you're the experts. I'm just dealing with a customer. Have to be like super, okay, we're going to do this. Don't worry. These
yeah.
materials were going to be here soon. And we're going to like just reassure him. And then I was like asking the previous person that he was taking care of that in the past. It was like, how is this? Because he was not available at that time. I was like, how do you do this? And what do you do with this? And oh, okay, I understand. Uh, I suppose it's kind of is similar.
Yeah. Very similar.
Okay. Speaking of which, let's say that there is someone that is working with you, and there is a creative lead that comes from another background.
Mm,
It's video, or it is not ads, or it is
mm.
like performance per se. Um, what do you think that this person should do to take the best of what all the roles are going to do and organize the work properly, ask the right questions to the customer, especially if they know their metrics and they have been getting results? How do you handle that situation if you were a creative?
I think if you are the expert, be open to having the conversation. If you're not the expert, bring in the right people to have that conversation. Again, it's okay to not know everything.
Mhm.
Um, and then lean into being really curious during the process. So when the expert is talking, dig deeper, book time with them, ask lots of questions, and force yourself into the room where you can understand what is happening, because it empowers your growth. And believe it or not, experts don't often get questioned. So it is incredibly, it's my personal favorite thing when someone comes to me and they don't understand something, and I then get to take it down, like, right to the basics and core of what we do, and like make them understand it. Um, and I think people shouldn't be afraid to ask that, and to keep asking the questions, and to bring the expert in, and to keep learning, and to check that they understand things. That's the best advice I can give anyone.
We don't have, I mean, we're close to end soon, but
Hmm.
is this I would like to keep speaking more actually. Maybe we can make a second one.
If we're going to do a second one, I would love to hear more from a creative, what they want to learn more from strategists, what you want to see more, what works for you. I think that's a really interesting perspective, because you work with strategists, and maybe that's also a very interesting discussion to not only hear it from my point of view, but for people to hear it from yours.
That's perfect. But then you would ask me the questions.
That's fine. I'll come prepared.
Where does AI have the most impact, the biggest impact in content creation and marketing?
Where does it have the most impact? In supporting the ideation and to getting to thinking first ideas faster. I think that's where AI has the most impact. I think humans are incredibly powerful at the beginning and the end of that process because we have to know and have a strong viewpoint of what we want the AI to create. And then we have to take the AI creation and turn it into something that's truly beautiful and meaningful.
Yeah.
Do you
Okay.
agree?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Uh, as long as you have a clear direction of where do you want to get things, in which
Mm,
direction, and what's the problem that you want to solve, then I agree that the ideas of solving that and different paths to conduct the results, the assets, the
mm,
steps, all of that is AI can make it very good if you have the main strategy, the main idea of where do you want things to go and what is the context that the constraints that you have to put on those ideas. AI is great for ideation and volume. AI is great for,
mm, mm.
and I don't think that a person can ever do what AI do in terms of volume,
Yeah.
but you can have a lot of bad things or a lot of good things. So you have to like really know where you want to take it to. You cannot expect AI to decide for you what is where the things are going. Do you think that UGC AI, well, UGC, that's a bit like contradictory to say AI generated looking like users generating content. Do you think is as good as real people content in how they perform?
It's a bit of a mixed bag. It depends how well the AI is executed.
Hmm.
If it feels like AI, doesn't perform.
If it feels like AI, like if
Yeah.
it's intending to
If
look real and it's not, you mean?
you can see when it's like that uncanny valley, when the audience can see
Uh-huh.
that it's not quite real, that's when it fails to perform because there's something in the human brain that doesn't like connect with that piece. If you look at it smartly and maybe play into the fact that it is AI a little bit, or you use it in sections and maybe not a talking head to the camera. I've seen instances where it outperforms the normal creators.
Okay.
So,
So the secret formula is people don't realize that people don't feel deceived, right?
yes.
Don't try to pass someone speaking if uh if people can see that it's not a real
Mm-hmm.
person. So keep it short, maybe keep it short enough, or like keep it in the parts where the lip sync is good and the
Mm.
texture, try to make a good texture and it can work for
It
one of,
it can work, and you can use B-roll. Like
yeah,
cut
exactly.
B-roll around it, tell a story differently visually. Like it doesn't have to be a talking head to the screen.
Yeah. For those who don't know, B-roll is when there is a secondary content that is not the person speaking. That is like complementary footage.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be one, or the other option. It is from what I hear from what you say is that you on purpose are showing that this is AI. It's so obvious that it's AI, but still it has a story to tell. And it would be like any other animation or 3D or traditional way of making videos could. Uh,
Yes. Exactly.
okay, so it's good. You can use AI for UGC. Doesn't.
You can if you do it well.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good. What are the biggest friction points usually between creatives and strategists?
Communication and mutual understanding.
Yeah.
When they don't talk to each other, they don't question each other, and they don't try and work together, that is the biggest friction point.
Why do
Like,
you
end of sentence. That's it.
why do you think that is?
Because we operate with like two different brains, if I can put it like that. Someone is thinking of the creative idea, and that's the creative, and the strategist is thinking of things very structurally and practically. For things to work, you need to meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And if you're not communicating, you're never going to meet in the middle. It's not natural for a creative to be very plan orientated, and it's not natural for a strategist to be very creative.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, it's basically you have the time to be curious
Mhm.
and understand what the other person has to say about it.
Yeah.
And how, as a like director of a strategy, have you have to uh, mediate between those situations?
From time to time, but it's less mediation and more just getting them on a call together.
That's it.
And
That's
that's it. That's it. It all comes down to communication. They just need to talk more.
okay. That's amazing. I believe what we get to the end.
Okay.
But it's just the end of this episode. We're gonna have another one for sure, where we are asking some other questions and maybe speak more about the creative side of things, view from a strategist. This was amazing. Thank you so much, Kristen, for coming.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for having me.
I've enjoyed so much.
I've also enjoyed it. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.